Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 14 of the Inside Sports Podcast. That is with the DE capitalized. We're going to kick you guys off talking about some women's basketball. Joey, how'd they do this past week?
It was another couple home losses, sadly. But we've been kind of bringing it up throughout the year so far. It's kind of not really about the winning with this team so far. It's still a transition.
That's right.
It's a dead horse at this point, I feel like. But we obviously know how many points they can score. It was not a very good matchup for us. We were getting two of the top three teams in the conference.
That's true. Drake and UNI.
Drake and UNI. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Drake is number 2 and UNI is number 3, so that's just not good back-to-back, of course. But Ashley Jones, she's turned it up. I think you put down here 52 points in the last 2 games.
That's correct.
Terrific. She's a terrific leader for our team, and she's the only graduate student, I believe. So, just what more can we ask for from one of our elders? So.
Yeah, she's been doing this really good. She's the reason we got 7 wins. We currently sit at 7-12 right now. We're 4-6 in the MVC. So, we're almost somewhat near 500. Jordan, what have you seen from the women's basketball team?
Yeah, there's too much we can't say at this point that we haven't already said. Obviously it's a rebuilding transition year, and a lot of teams, they can just lay down. You think about it. We're 4-6. That's not last in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
We're still beating some good teams. Won at Murray State last week. Got Missouri State coming up here on Wednesday. Sounds the exact same. Almost tongue-twisted myself there. But we're scoring a lot of points, and I just want to send a message out to Saluki Nation. I'm going to look right at the camera for this one.
Do it.
These games are super entertaining. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to come. These games are fantastic. We need more fans in the stands. The Dog Pound needs to show out on Wednesday night. Well, I guess people on the podcast won't be seeing this till after, but you get what I'm saying.
Yes.
For the rest of the home games this year, show out, because these games are entertaining. In fact, 94-81, obviously it's a loss, but there's a lot of offense, a lot of high-flying three-pointers, a lot of just good basketball, especially offensively. What more can you ask for a down year for this program? Like you guys have said, Ashley Jones, 52 points. She's been fun as heck to watch. Another player I want to point out, Aja Holmes. I don't know if
she's been holding paint down.
It's not even like she is getting these wide open threes and just hitting them every time. She takes it. She doesn't even need her feet set. She just throws it up there and it goes in. This team's fun to watch. That's the whole point of what I'm trying to say here. The point I'm trying to make here is that these games are fun as heck to watch. Defensively, obviously, didn't have a great last couple of games. 94 allowed against Northern Iowa on Saturday. Not what you want to see, but again, this is a transition year. We're not just falling flat on our face. Dog Pound, get out there, please. These games are awesome to watch.
They are. They're real fun. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's the thing with this team, right? Is we have a lot of these young pieces. Obviously, Ashley Jones, even though she's not a young piece, she can light it up.
Yeah.
She is really putting on a show. She's got to be having a little bit of fun out there, I'm sure part of that is kind of the standard that we've seen with this team, right? They just want to put up points fast. That's why Ashley Jones, right? She shoots a lot of early threes in the shot clock. And sometimes it doesn't work, it's kind of like Lance Jones' game a little. But when it's hitting, it's hitting. And we'll talk a lot more about that with the men's basketball team and kind of how their success has been determined this season. But I just think that for the most part, right, we're really excited because we got Tyranny Brown coming up for you guys in Saluki-Space in just a couple of minutes here. Tyranny's going to take us through the differences between their former head coach, Cindy Stein, and then their coach this year, which is Kelly Bond White. And I think it's completely 2 different styles, right?
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like Stein wanted to slow it down, let Abby Brockmeyer and Mackenzie Sylvie get it down the half court, play hard defense, but with Bond White, it seems like it's just go, go, go. And we've seen that both ways the basketball can work that way. So we're really excited about that interview. Just want to make it clear again, they got Wednesday, obviously before this comes out, against Missouri State, and then Saturday versus Valpo at home. So we're really excited about both those home games. Then men's basketball. Joey, give me your thoughts on this team.
Yeah, I love the win against Murray State. It just I was at that Illinois State game with the Dog Pound on the bus ride, and that was just incredibly frustrating to watch. But I don't want to get too discouraged by just one game. But it just seems like this always happens on the road.
That's true.
And I'm starting to get worried by, assuming we get that number 1 seed in the conference, I'm starting to just get worried that just because we're not at the Banterra Center, we're not going to be able to do what works best for us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to just get a little worried, but I wrote down here a little bit in my notes. J.D. Mula, he had probably one of his worst games as a Saluki against ISU. It seemed like he was the one causing a lot of fouls. He almost fouled out. He had 4 by like 10 minutes left in the second half.
And it was within a short period of time, too.
Right. He had a lot of fouls like at the
we needed his size in that game.
Right. So I think we just need to use the size that we do have to our potential and figure out ways to get around that where we don't have size in certain areas, when we have speed, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And Marcus and Lance can't do everything for us. That was starting to happen in the ISU game.
Most
But
definitely. I mean, that entire run was cut off by Lance Jones step back three, and then Marcus making 2 threes of his own. Like, that was the entire reason we got back into the game at the very end.
Exactly. But I do think it says something about this team, how that might have been one of the most frustrating games I have seen from SIU, and we still almost pulled it out.
That is true.
I think that's a bright side just with that Sunday's game. But, yeah, I think you wrote down here about talking about size and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a perfect example of this team right now. We just need to use our size, the size that we do have, to our advantage.
That's correct. That's very, very correct. JD is a huge part of our team. Him and Clarence, I think, are really, really, really important because, right, we're a team that lacks size. I mean, we're throwing out lineups that has Trent Brown, Dalton Banks, and Lance Jones all in there. All of them are under 6'3", right? So we're going to have, like, Trent Brown playing small forward. And it's not that he can't sometimes play a little bit, bigger than what he actually is. But, I mean, come on, let's be real here. When we're playing a big, long, lengthy team like Illinois State, that was hurting us yesterday. And that was kind of the big reason behind that. Jordan, take me a little bit more in depth on your thoughts about this kind of rough loss against Illinois State.
Yeah, it was, and you just referred to it. Illinois State, they're not a great team, but they do 2 things well. They've got size, and they can shoot. Even their big men can shoot. So that definitely hurt us. Obviously, JD going out hurt us. They shot, I believe, did you say 93% from the free throw line?
Yeah, they
yesterday,
really.
Illinois State did. I mean, in their home court, it's kind of one of those systematic things about college basketball. When you're at home, you feel like you can play more of your game. You talked about our struggles on the road. When we're at home, it's a completely different game we're watching, it seems, at times. We want to slow it down, and we want to play, in that more half-court style like you mentioned, and we weren't able to do that yesterday. We had to play at Illinois State's pace, run and gun, do more of like what the women's team does, more run and gun, shoot quickly, and that's ultimately why we got back in the game, but that's not really how we want to play.
Yeah, that's not how we play.
Hopefully this week, we'll go at Bradley, which is going to be another tough one on the road, up north there in the central Illinois area. Shout out 309 boys.
That's right.
And then home against Missouri State. If we can pull out the win against Bradley, which I think we can.
Absolutely.
Coming home against Missouri State on Sunday, I believe that game's going to be nationally televised on Valley Sports Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be fun to watch. Fun to see that nice high-level broadcast.
That's right.
But yeah, it'll be fun to watch. But again, it's really going to be important that the big men stay out of foul trouble, especially if Scotty can keep getting back into the groove of things after his injury, maybe get more in game shape. I think we're going to be a dangerous team in March. But again, we still got to get that win on the road, like Joey just mentioned.
Mm-hmm. And now let's talk about March, right? Because we're looking at this team, right? Number 1 in the Missouri Valley as of right now. So we're a little high on ourselves, and I think that's a good thing, and I also think that's necessarily a little scary because one thing that I think is the most important thing to mention about this SIU team is we tend, at least in some of these games, especially these close ones, to live or die by the 3. That's the saying that you hear all the time with these guys, right? And it's because Lance Jones, right, heavy 3-point shooter, so is Marcus Damask, so is Trent Brown, Foster Wonders comes in off the bench. We have all these guys that we like to rotate in at. And that's not to say that that's our only strength, right? Xavier Johnson isn't necessarily a 3-point shooter, but he gets it done. Same goes for all of our big men down low. But I've just started to notice that in a couple of these games. And that's why I think that March, we almost have the perfect and the worst recipe, right? You see some teams that will, if we get hot over that weekend, over that week, a tournament spot's ours.
Yeah,
it's ours to lose. We have very good defense. Brian Moulds has done a great job on that side of the ball. But if Lance gets cold, starts taking a couple of those shots early in the shot clock where you're going, oh my gosh, we're down 9. Why are you doing that? We kind of lose one to a UNI just because they're hitting more than them. I think Joey kind of speaks to it, right? Across college, at all levels, whether it be football, even baseball, right? You're going to play better at home. And the Salukis are dominant at the Banterra Center. And so they're going to be knocking down shots at the Banterra Center. But it does make me a little bit nervous when we got to travel to St. Louis, and we're going to have to be able to put on a show there.
Yeah.
Calling out the administration right now, you want to make sure SIU gets there. You might want to keep on sending the dog pound down there for as much as you possibly can. Because, the more that these players get riled up, right? You can watch it in Lance's face when he's out there and he's having fun at the Banterra Center and he makes 2 threes in a row and everybody freaks out.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that that's going to be an absolute necessity if we really want to get to that next step. So let's go ahead and cut to our interview with Tyranny Brown for a great episode of Saluki-Space. All right, guys, welcome to Saluki-Space. Here we have sophomore forward Tyranny Brown with us today. She's going to talk us through this women's basketball season last year's roller coaster of a year, and then, of course, this year. And I'm sure they're completely two different things. But before we get into that, what's your biggest pet peeve? Would you mind letting us in on that? Do you have a big pet peeve that bothers you a lot?
Oh, goodness. My biggest pet peeve? I'm not a big fan. This is like clearly everyone's, I feel like. I'm not a big fan of smackers. Like when they're eating.
With their mouth open?
I just can't. It really bothers me. So I honestly am not a big fan of also like talking while we're eating. I know it's kind of like hard to not.
No, I'm with you.
Sitting on the table.
Food at you.
Yeah, it's just, and I'm like a spitter too sometimes. I like get excited, start talking fast, so like I have to like dial it down and dial it back, but I just can't. It's just like, oh no, stop smacking.
I fully understand you, but just something else, just a little bit of an intro. So you're an athlete, of course. You got to get up early in the morning and practice and everything. And some of those mornings, I'm sure you don't really want to get up. What kind of gets you going? Do you have to drink an energy drink? Do you have like a big breakfast, just light breakfast? Do you have coffee? What gets you going in the morning?
For sure. Okay, so for me, the hardest part about waking up in the morning is actually getting out of bed. Like, once I'm out of bed, I'm totally okay. Like, I just have to get out of bed, and that's usually the hardest part. Like, I'll lay in bed. I set, like, 4 alarms. And then, so as each one goes off, I'm like, okay, I'll get up on the next one. I'll get up on the next one. And after the last alarm, I'm like, I have to get up now. Like, there's no option. So once I finally get out of bed, I'm pretty cool. But I do like energy drinks. I've been on, like, the Ghost energy drinks really bad lately.
Okay.
But, yeah, they're really tasty. Like, I didn't think I would like them that much, but, yeah. And then I also do like coffee. I just don't drink it as much.
Starbucks.
Yeah, I'm more of a Starbucks girl.
I didn't even
Yeah.
ask you, are you a big coffee guy?
I can't really handle that stuff.
Yeah, no, I've never been a big coffee guy myself.
But yeah.
yeah, I've never been one. Okay, what teammate would you be most willing to go on a week-long vacation with? Like, you got a little bestie teammate? Like, be real, you got one?
Yeah, for sure. Probably Paige.
Yeah.
Paige Club, yeah. Number 2.
Yeah.
She's pretty cool. Me and her are pretty close.
Where would you want to go on vacation to? Can I ask you that?
Oh, goodness. Like, anywhere. in the
Anywhere.
world.
This is paid for. You get a weekend, or hell, let's even go a week.
Probably somewhere warm.
Yeah, for sure.
Gotta be.
And out of the
Gotta be.
country. Because, like...
Oh, yeah, gotta be.
Come
on.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe somewhere. I'd have to like. I'd have to really look into it because when I first think, I'm like Bora Bora, but that's something I feel like more like relationshipy.
Yeah.
I want somewhere where me and Paige would be like be able to ride elephants and stuff like that. Like that seems fun
Yeah.
for sure.
That's a good deal. All right.
And then still on the topic of teammates, I was wondering, who would you be most afraid of to go one-on-one with?
As far as basketball.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Either Ashley Jones or Prom. Just because Prom is humongous, like it's kind of hard to stop her in the paint. Like if I just like had to just rip it from her every time she dribbled and like outside, I could do that. But like guarding her in the paint, oh my goodness, that would be tough. And then Ashley, she's just really shifty. So like the second you want to relax and just like, okay, cool, I got her. She's like, Hezzy, go blow by.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
Ashley's
saying?
a buddy.
So,
I'm gonna be real too.
yeah.
I'm sure you know that. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about last year, right? Because you're a part of these two completely different teams, like we alluded to in the beginning. Take me through last year. You know, it's an incredible season. I'm sure you get recruited by Cindy, and you just go, "Oh my God, she announces, right? Oh my God, this is gonna be her last year."
Right.
Was that part of the reason for you guys' success? Did it like weigh on you guys? You know, just take me through that entire season if you can.
Honestly, we really didn't talk about it very much of her leaving. Like, before I came up, coming into my freshman year, the summer, because usually all freshmen come in that summer before. And so I clearly got the call that summer before I came up, and she's like, yeah, by the way, I'm probably going to retire at the end of this year. And I'm like, oh, goodness, okay, so.
Can I ask something before you speak on it a little bit more? As a recruit, was there a little... Just as a recruit, you know, obviously you stayed with us. So you clearly liked it enough. But like, was there a little bit of you that was like, man, I kind of wish you didn't tell me this before I committed?
I mean, it was definitely because it wasn't just her that left. There was a few coaching changes with Collier leaving, Kiki leaving.
Yeah.
So they had to pick up a few other coaches too. So and the coach that recruited me, Collier, she left before I'd even known about Stein. And I'm like, geez, like the people that you're like building relationships with leaving, that's what makes it kind of tough because then you're coming in and you're like, especially freshman year, you're like, So I have no relationship with anyone. It's like, who do I go to for this?
Man,
and
I couldn't even.
yeah. But they definitely pulled me in, and like Mac, all the upperclassmen, Peyton, Link, they all like kind of took me under their wing, so it made it a little bit easier. And but throughout the whole entire season, we really didn't talk about Cindy leaving very much.
Wow, that's wild.
So this is your second year with SIU. Of course, we're going to kind of touch on that right before the interview and everything. But what does that added year of experience that you have now under your belt from last year, and you were a freshman, it was kind of a senior-oriented team last year. Mm-hmm. What does that added year of experience just do for you now?
I feel like a lot of learning for sure, and like you said, experience in general. There's a lot of times last year Coach Stein would be like into the game, and she's like, I'm going with experience. And so everyone knows like just one extra year, one extra month of like knowledge that you get to learn while on the court, that means a lot. And it affects a lot as far as IQ and things like that. Because even if I'm put up with Mac, it's like we both could have started when I was 3, but Mac's 3 years older than me. So she's definitely going to know 3 years of more information than I am. So it definitely matters. And I definitely think it's helped me a lot, the one year of experience.
Of course.
Would you say that you're still close with a lot of the girls that either graduated last year or ended up transferring, anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually close with pretty much most of the upperclassmen. Peyton today was literally just in our practice. She was being one of the practice players. Yeah, and then Abby Brockmeyer, I reach out to them all the time. Link, I call her all the time. I'm like, hey Link, how are you? Just checking in. Probably closest though still with P, because she's still here. Yeah. But Mac and I are still pretty close because she was also just a practice player too. But yeah, I still conversate with pretty much all the upperclassmen from last year, and then clearly the girls that are still there, Sydney, Q, I'm still cool with them. They're still on the team, so.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's gotta be nice. Could you take us through? We talked a lot about last year, but let's talk about this year, right?
Right.
Take me through the major differences, not just in coaching style, but I want to know like the strategy too between Kelly Bond White and Stein. Where can you take us through that?
I think last year, because we had 3 like main level scorers, we kind of were okay with using the whole entire shot clock. We knew at the end of the day, we knew we were going to. And most teams did too. Like Mac, Abby, and Gabby are going to be scoring, and then everyone else kind of just fills in where they fit in, or make it where they have to play us, but at the same time, if they're playing us and Mac's more open, then pass to Mac. You know what I'm saying? So this year, especially offensively, I think it's more of a, anybody could pop off on any day. Like anyone can score 20 on this day, and then the next person scoring 20 on this day. It's not ever too offensive minded where it's just one person. I think Coach Bond is more like, she knows that she has a lot of offensive players that can do a lot of offensive things. So less role players in a way. Like the role players have a little bit more ability to do a little bit more. And so that's made the biggest difference. That, and then of course transition. We're fast, and if we're not going to the speed that, especially this year, if we're not going to that speed and we're having to slow it down, we're not as effective as in transition. We're killing in transition.
Yeah, that's so funny that you say that, because we film our little segments before here, and what we talk about with the women's basketball team this year is we say what's so interesting, right, is they're almost, you guys aren't polar opposites now, obviously, but the ways you guys played, right? It was a half court last year, major, and then now it's like run and gun, like get it going. Like it was something that I talked about where it was like, last year everybody kind of knew that Mac and Abby and Caitlin even maybe would take more of the shots, but now, like you said, you could get 20, and then Ashley Jones is probably gonna get 20, and then Asia might go off the next game. It's totally wild, and so you'd say that's accurate. Like it's just like completely different styles. Wow.
Well, yeah. We were talking about the differences, of course, but I kind of want to know what are some of the similarities. Kelly was like coached by Cindy back in college. I remember when we interviewed her, she said that. So I'm sure she brought some similar things to the table that Cindy still had. What would you say are some of them?
I say, as far as kind of how the assistant coaches work more so than anything. Right. Like I feel like this year and last year both head coaches were, offensively kind of spitting out what we need to do, and then they kind of let their assistant coaches come in on as the defensive portion. But I guess both, like Jody from last year, she was more a defensive coach, and then as far as this year, Nichols, Jordan Jones, those coaches are also defensive. So I feel like that's something that's pretty similar. I don't know if I probably would also say some of the like plays and stuff that it's kind of like I'm like, oh, this kind of looks a little familiar, but it also just a lot of plays I feel like kind of get used in general around the whole entire.
I mean, if it isn't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. So, take me to kind of how the team is feeling this season. I mean, every season has its ups and downs, obviously, but at this point last year, we were at number 1 in the Missouri Valley. Now it's just simply not the case. Is there maybe even just, do you guys have like a certain lack of motivation? Where do you guys see yourselves, and how's the team kind of currently feeling about this year?
Yeah. The thing about college basketball in general, but MVC specifically, anyone can beat anyone on any day. And that's kind of where it's been. It's like, we beat Murray State beats
100%.
Belmont.
It's
kind of like, it just depends on the day. I feel like a lot of times, depends on who's on, depends on what players are stepping up. And at the end of the day, the seeding is the seeding. Yeah, you're first, you're 8th. Yes, it matters if the first team is like beating the 8th, or like the first team's playing the 8th team. But if we end up smack dab in the middle, then we're going to also play someone smack dab in the middle.
That's right, yeah.
And so that's first round. And the second round, it's going to be different. So at the end of the day, if we get to the championship round in the tournament, we're still going to have the same opportunity to go to the NCAA as the next. And I feel like we know that there's still opportunity. So that's kind of helping us push us forward. But there is also, like, when you're... There's a big difference between, I know how it felt last year with doing a lot of winning, and then I know how it feels this year with, kind of being in the middle, doing more losing than winning, it definitely feels different. But I think there's also still hope, and there's still some type of recognition that things can still be done.
Yeah. This team is super young, right? I mean, you just talked about earlier before the pod where all these seniors graduated.
Right.
And so you guys now have that experience. You guys know what it takes to win. It's just right now you guys are just too young. Is that what you should say? Like, you guys surely will be back like next year or the year after.
Right, and I honestly didn't even recognize too until probably halfway through the season that we are really young, even with the transfers. Like clearly I'm knowing, me, the freshmen, and then the sophomore class that are now juniors. I'm like, oh, okay. But even then, we really only have one senior, and that's Ashley in her 5th year, and then there's still some possibility that prom can still have an eligible for another year. So we pretty much, like, if everything worked out, that everyone would be back except Ashley Jones. So we would really have the same team. So there's definitely some aspects of youth or how young we are that kind of affect it. But other things, too, we just have to work through,
Yeah, really understand that.
So a couple weeks back, you guys actually accomplished something this year that you didn't do last year, score 100 points.
Right.
And I'm sure those 2 games were really, really fun, of course. But just do those games kind of like point towards the strengths of this team and like represent what this team is right now? Just an extremely offensive, young team with needing more experience, of course, but there's certainly some offensive firepower, as you can tell from those 100-point performances. But also, just what were those like, just scoring 100 points?
Exciting, especially one of them being with the kids from all across Carbondale. It was loud. It was like, clearly you guys know, you've been to men's game and you've been to women's game. It's kind of like pretty obvious to see the crowd showing up.
Speaking of which, they're putting up 100-point games, guys. We said this earlier. We got to go to the dog pound games. Everybody's got to tune in. Everybody's got to go.
But it was electric for sure. And even though we really couldn't hear much as far as like, thousands of young kids screaming, like just not even knowing what they're screaming for probably. But it was still electric, and we definitely had fun. The bench was fired up, As women's basketball, you kind of know after a while, like, you got to be your own energy. And so being able to have that energy around us really, really pumped everything up. And it made for very, very fun games, for sure.
Gotcha. And so, obviously, those happened a little bit before the conference season. We talked a little bit about, the Missouri Valley being extremely competitive. How do you guys view the conference right now? Do you still think that with the rest of the way that your games are going to be played, do you think you got a shot in every single one of these last couple games? Could we see kind of a little turnaround coming in right up? Like, where do you view your guys in the Valley, I guess I'd say?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I said, any game, I feel like it's always up in the air. There's definitely teams that are, in our eyes, seen more or above other teams as far as competition-wise. However, at the end of the day, we just kind of got to go out every single game and compete like it's every other team. So that'll help us, in a way, win. But we're pretty much in the halfway point of conference. You guys probably know that. And so we're getting ready to play pretty much every team for a second time. So we have some familiarity with each team, and that kind of helps us to kind of go into it a little bit more prepared than we are, because it's such a quick turnaround. Usually it's like a game, an off day, and then another game. And so just being able to have already played a lot of these teams, we kind of have some already acquainted feelings and emotions towards how we're going to go into it.
Gotcha. Very interesting. And then, do you have any thoughts on kind of the new additions to the league? I mean, we got 3 new. You guys played them. Upset, was it Murray State, but then obviously Belmont.
Mm-hmm.
You know, give me some thoughts on. Give us your guys' scouting report.
For sure. Well, Murray State, it was a pretty good team, and we were clearly super excited to win that one, especially in their home.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Dog Pound, too, for coming to that game. That was a nice little addition, and that definitely probably helped us a lot. And then I just feel like as far as Belmont, they're a good team. They're very structured. So it's like they're doing this every time until it doesn't work, and then they'll switch to something else. And so pretty much same as Murray State, so that's good. The fact that we know that, though, so it makes it a little bit different because we know what's coming, and it's just preparation at that point. And then with UIC, they're almost pretty similar to us as far as run and gun. They're just going, and so that competition is definitely very similar. But I feel like I'm glad with the additions because it just shows the MVC is so competitive. But they're, of course, all beautiful teams. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then just something I just wanted to bring up back early in the conference season. You had those first 2 conference games with huge fourth quarter comebacks, and you guys even started 3-0 in the conference. With those late game comebacks, and then this kind of a lull stretch lately, I'm sure something that just Coach Bond, I remember, talked about after the Drake game was she thought that the trust between you girls might not have been the best late in the games. I just want to just touch on how do you want to try to maybe build upon that trust once again as we get into the final stretch of the year.
Mm-hmm. I feel as though I do understand, or I do agree with Coach Bond with the trust aspect of it. I also feel like it's also just grit and being able to reach down in the deep part of our hearts and be able to kind of fight back. I feel like there's more trust as far as from the coaches, as far as especially in the beginning when we were doing all that winning. That's where you get, you're like, okay, stuff's working. You're starting to trust them more. And so in a way it could come and go, but I feel like at the end of the day it kind of just comes down to us and what we decide to do. And so, hopefully we'll buy into everything. That'll help us get some wins in the later part of the conference season.
Good. Yeah, we're glad to hear that. And of course, just to wrap this up, what's the team goal the rest of the way? Is it to go 500? Is it to win out? Is it to win the chip? Where do you think accurately depicts where you guys should be at by the time we get to the end of the season?
I definitely feel like we have a team that should be able to at least hit 500. And like I said before, there's always hope and a possibility that we could ride it out and end up going to the championship. And
that's right.
Next thing you know, you see us in the NCAA tournament.
With how many points you guys put up?
Honestly, sure. Yeah. So we're trying to win as many games as we can at the end of the day, and if anything, go out without a fight. So hopefully that's what you'll see for the last part of the season.
Yeah.
Anything can happen when you're in the valley.
Exactly.
So.
That's right. Yeah. Anyways, this has been it for us on Saluki-Space this week. Once again, this is Tyranny Brown. You can be sure to check her out playing for the Southern Illinois Salukis. Be sure to head to the Banterra Center during all their next matchups. Like we said, they put up points. Why not go? So, thank you so much for doing this.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty, folks. Guess what? We didn't tell you so. But blame Joey this time. It wasn't me that got the picks wrong. Joey got both of them wrong.
I mean,
we got a Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl, like Jordan called near the end of our podcast.
Right. I mean, I didn't even believe it myself, but after we all 3 agreed on both games, something that we don't really do often. If you look back, we probably never did that in the regular season. Of course, it was destined that the opposite teams win, but it makes for that fantastic storyline that I mentioned. Andy Reid versus the Eagles. Oh my gosh! I mean, I didn't want it to happen, but now that it's here, I'm kind of happy. It's gonna be awesome.
Exciting. So Joey, come on, give us your thoughts on both the games.
Well, no, I just wanted to point out. I feel like I underestimated the Eagles team just in general. I mean, you were here for our very first podcast when I talked about how I thought Jalen Hurts was going to be MVP caliber, and he ended up being. I guess I just didn't realize how dominant their defense was going to be. They creamed the Giants, and they creamed a good Niners team. And of course, we know
Yeah.
this. What's happening right now with their storyline is what are they doing at quarterback? Because Brock Purdy got hurt, and then even Josh Johnson got hurt. They were wondering if Christian McCaffrey was going to have to end up being quarterback. So, I mean, but they're still a good team regardless of who's at quarterback.
Yeah.
And they made them look like a high school team. Out there for a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just think it's a fascinating storyline with who's going to be the quarterback for the Niners next year. We briefly touched on it last week. What is going to happen with Trey Lance? What's going to happen with Garoppolo? I honestly think that a good fit is Tom Brady over there in San Francisco. Tom Brady doesn't
Throw
get hurt.
another one in there? Are you serious right now?
No, I am serious. I am serious. I think they might get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay.
With all their quarterback
Move Trey Lance to the Taysom Hill position?
Because they've had injuries at quarterback for a couple of years now. Garoppolo got hurt for the whole year in 2020. Was it, I believe?
Yeah, I mean, he's always going to
I think they're just starting to get worried that they just have no QBs on the roster. They can think, okay, they can.
And so forgive me.
Not injury. Well, go
This
ahead.
comes off a certain way, but so your solution is to hire the 47-year-old quarterback.
I think for
next season?
1 year, if they want to get a ring, for 1 year, because they do have a
that's
team
true.
that's caliber.
No, you're 100% right.
Tom Brady doesn't
obviously
get
takes
hurt.
care of the body.
As old as he is, he just doesn't get hurt. He only had that 1 year. I think it was 2010 or whatever. He tore his ACL.
Mm-hmm.
He just doesn't get hurt. I think it's a good fit.
Let
For
me
1
ask
year.
you this,
For 1 year.
Packers fan. Trey Lance, probably 1, 2 first rounders for Aaron Rodgers. What are you saying?
No.
Yeah,
No?
I'd say no to that too.
No.
Yeah,
Not
That-
Trey
that
Lance.
was-
Okay,
Packers just suck, but
okay.
yeah.
What, like Trey Lance and somebody else?
I don't think who in their right mind is trading for Trey Lance at this point for a good player. Like,
Okay,
you're not
okay,
trading
okay,
Trey Lance
okay.
for Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
Like
Jimmy G. You get Jimmy G, and then you get another first. No.
I mean,
really?
I would love the Packers to do that. That would be stupid for them. Yeah.
I mean,
It would
he
be?
backup.
Yeah.
He backup to Jordan Love. I feel like.
I don't know. I don't
That
even know
is-
about that.
I mean-
But regardless
Oh
of whether
my
or not
God.
it's Jordan Love or Jimmy G,
You're so high.
Well,
on
I
Jimmy
can't
G
say
for no reason.
I can't say Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the future.
No,
Jordan Love.
no.
I'm not.
Jordan Love's played
Listen.
a quarter of good football.
I'm not saying I'm certain
He's
Jordan
bad.
Love is
Yeah.
going to be the future too, but just we know what we get from Jimmy Garoppolo.
He goes, Jimmy
is what I'm
Garoppolo's
saying.
going to be the backup. Are you kidding me? Jordan Love.
I'm just saying Jordan Love's high is higher than Jimmy Garoppolo. Ceiling is the word that I should have said.
You're really low on Jimmy Garoppolo, apparently.
I don't like.
He was having a great year. I'm a Jimmy G guy, so
Right.
I guess that's just kind of where we fall.
He's-
Tell us
he's
about the
handsome.
Bengals
He's
and
handsome.
Chiefs
That's
game.
all. That's all.
Tell
pretty
us
much
about
all.
the Bengals Chiefs game.
Bengals Chiefs. That was the storyline with that game. I think everyone's talking about the refs with that, and I honestly think that's getting kind of blown out to proportion too.
The refs are under big time fire right now, especially at the
Well,
Lakers
yeah,
Celtics
so-
game.
They need to get those full time, and I agree with that. But the Chiefs just straight up outplayed them. Joe Burrow was in havoc all game. They had more passing yards, more. I put it down here somewhere. I know they had more passing yards, more first downs.
More yards, first downs, yards per play. O-line only allowed 2 sacks compared to the Chiefs' 5
Right.
sacks. Won the time of possession, and Burrow threw 2 picks.
Right.
That's
So-
a lot going the Chiefs' way.
Patrick Mahomes, obviously, he's the MVP. If we didn't already know that from this game.
Mhm.
But I think all the Burrowhead talk can be kind of settled down after this game.
I said it last week. I mean,
But
it was bound to happen at some point.
I think Spagnuolo knew what he needed to do to make
Mhm.
Joe Burrow nervous and everything. Send all the blitzes every single time.
Well, now
he can.
hold on. Burrow played a good game. We can't talk.
I'm not saying
We're not saying he threw out a Josh
I'm not saying
Johnson.
he played a bad game, but I mean he didn't.
He made a couple mistakes that he hasn't really made in his career. Like that one pick late in the game was on a deep ball. I think it was to Higgins or Chase, but he overthrew him by a little bit. Chiefs picked
He
it
didn't
off.
have much time either. Though.
No,
Well, that's
he
what
did.
I'm saying.
But
That's what I'm saying.
last year he it was the same. He barely had any time last year, and he still made the plays that he needed to. This year he just made a couple mistakes. He didn't play a bad game, but he made a couple mistakes that he normally wouldn't make in this scenario. And
Well, that's just what I want to throw out there. I gotta protect my boy, Burrow. I know you're watching.
I mean, I love me some Joey B too. I'm a Joey B.
That's
so.
true.
right, yeah.
That's true. You gotta stand up for your boy.
I mean, it sounds like he's more your boy than my boy.
No, actually, no.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Well,
You're
all
more
right.
of a
Anyways.
Okay, whatever. This podcast is going off the rails right now.
Yes, it is.
We are.
Okay, let me ask you something, Joey. Well, I guess let's open it up to everybody. Me and Jordan already talked about it a little bit. Your thoughts on that last play, the last out of bounds one, where Joseph Osai gets in trouble, little much. We can all agree.
With how the rules are, I mean, that's definitely a penalty.
Yes,
but
I agree.
I think that doesn't mean I don't think they should change the.
There we go.
No,
Good.
yeah,
Good.
no.
I agree.
No.
I mean,
I just think necessarily with those type of plays, right? As a defender, Patrick Mahomes could still go I'm gonna go out of bounds. Oh no, I'm not. You know what I'm saying? You kind of almost have to ensure. Now, granted, he was a little late. Of course, he was a little late. We saw the clips, the freeze frames, and everything. But when you're in a moment like that, I do really resonate with a player, especially seeing him on the sideline. Oh my gosh, just you feel for the guy. You really, really feel for him, especially being a 22-year-old. I think it's his second year in the league. And he's been awesome for them. I just think that, I almost just wish it was plays like that where they're out of bounds and maybe there isn't necessarily super rough of a hit. It's just 5 yards. I think the NFL really needs to adopt the NBA ideology of technicals and flagrant rulings on things.
Interesting. Yeah.
Where you could almost do an unsportsmanlike 1 and an unsportsmanlike 2.
Interesting.
And I just think that would just make much more sense. And people wouldn't walk away. I mean, I'll be real with you guys. I was talking about the Joseph Osai stuff. It's because I saw it on Twitter. After I saw that penalty, I just turned the game off because I knew that Tony Romo was going to go, oh, Jim, and then he was going to complain and he's talking about it. He's just gonna talk about it over and over again, and they're gonna roll the replay, and I'm just gonna get a little bit upset at the foul call because I just think 15 yards on that play. I mean, good God, that changes everything. The Chiefs had it in the bag as soon as that flag was thrown.
Yeah,
I think people forget that Burrow also had the ball just a minute before that with a chance to win the game, and they didn't capitalize.
Yes,
so.
of course. I'm not blaming that on the refs. I just simply think in my head, I just went, okay, that's what? How long did the game-winning field goal end up being?
45, I think. It would have been a 60.
For Harrison Butker, come on. I mean, that's
easy
game
money.
time. That's
Yeah,
why I turned it off. I knew they would win. Guess what? Check the final score, and he made it. So it's you're right. Obviously, right? That's the biggest excuse that all high school coaches give, or at least that's what mine did, right? One foul call doesn't change a game.
No.
And I do think that people are really there's an over-dramatization of the Lakers and Celtics thing. I mean, we don't even need to get into that too much, but I've always been a big stan. Don't call a foul with 3 seconds left in the game. No matter how hard anybody's hit, no matter anything. Okay, I guess I shouldn't say that.
I don't know about that
but
one.
to me, it always kind of ruins the game. The thing I always call back to is the Auburn closeout on Kyle Guy in the Virginia game in the Final Four. I said this is a Final Four game, and a ref is deciding the game right
Well, that just straight up wasn't foul.
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't a foul. These refs, they get trigger happy because they get nervous, right? Oh my God, I'm going to ruin everything. But then they'll do the opposite because then sometimes they'll get scared. And I think, in certain situations, 5 seconds left. We're getting into basketball too much, but
I can tell you this though, that from an inside source, that refs are taught nowadays probably more frequently. When you see certain things, no matter the severity of it, no matter how hard of a foul it is, if you see certain actions, whether that's a guy closing out too far, under a player's landing zone.
Oh my God!
Or yesterday, if a guy, quarterback, running back, whatever, as soon as he gets the 2 feet out of bounds, he can't be tackled or pushed or whatever anymore. Yesterday, that wasn't egregious. What Asai did was not egregious whatsoever.
No.
But by the
ref
ruling,
has to make that call.
He has to make that call, absolutely, because you know what would happen if he didn't make that call? The Chiefs fans after the game would be screenshotting his 2 feet out of bounds, and this would be a whole thing, and then we'd have the same conversation that we have every year at some point. The NFL needs to make this rule change or whatever. This shouldn't even be a thing. We avoided all that with this because technically they were correct in the call.
Could they take the aggressiveness of the actual play into account when talking about how many yards? I just wonder.
That's what I was
right,
and
that's definitely something to think about for sure.
Yeah. Because 15 yards can kill a team in any situation. So
and they tried to fix rules like this a couple years back with the Rams and the Saints NFC Championship game. That didn't end up as much as they thought about it. I think this is just blown up now just because it's recency bias. I don't know if anything will actually end up happening. But
I just want to put it out there. I hate replays. I hate reviews. Everything. I say we just. And the leagues will never do this.
Yeah.
But I proposed this in one of my classes, and almost everybody disagreed with me. But I was like, how about we just go back to the 1980s in terms of film recording, where there's not a review of every single little thing. Because then guess what? People wouldn't complain. I mean, I get so sick of going on Twitter and saying, like, guess what? They missed this. Like, it's just, guess what? Refs are going to miss stuff.
Yeah.
I reffed third grade basketball during a summer, and the entire time I was freaking out. I was stressed out.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm never doing this. Now I understand.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't give refs a little bit of crap sometimes, but
Right, yeah.
still.
it's a human game made by humans that make errors.
Right.
That's a perfect way of putting it, Joey B.
And the way I always try to think about it is, like, yeah, refs can make awful calls, right?
Yes.
But you can look back at the game. There's probably something that your team did to put themselves in that situation anyway.
Right.
Hence, throwing a pick in the fourth quarter like Joe Burrow did yesterday.
Right.
Like, there's always something that you could have done better.
Mhm.
So, you can't get too hung up on the ref thing. I do want to say one more thing. I don't know if we want to move on or not, but we got to give more credit to the Eagles, okay? The Eagles-49ers discussion, we basically just talked about the 49ers' future at quarterback.
That is true. That's
which
true.
I'll say
Let's
one
revert back.
I'm going to give you one name here in a couple seconds of who I think should be in that consideration. But shout out to the Eagles, man. I mean, their whole roster. Have we really broken down just how good this roster is, up and down? Hassan Reddick might be one of the best pass rushers in the league.
He was killing Josh Johnson and Brock Purdy
He
yesterday.
was killing him yesterday, and I do feel bad for Josh Johnson, for that 49ers team in general, because at the beginning of the game, every single break, whether it was penalties or that one Devontae Smith catch, which was obviously not a catch. I don't know why Kyle Shanahan didn't throw that out.
We're gonna talk about refs.
I know you hate reviews, but and people make mistakes, but that wasn't a catch.
Yeah,
that wasn't a catch.
Looked like a catch when I was watching. So
well, it did when I watched it too. But then we have the replay and we see, he definitely did not catch that ball. So every single break, and I told you this at the beginning of the game because we were watching it. It just seemed like an Eagles magic game. They had all the mojo from the very, very beginning. The Niners stood no chance, honestly. Whether or not Brock got hurt or not, it was an Eagles day, and they deserved it.
So who are you guys thinking right now, just the day after conference championship games?
Not picking, correct? Not picking.
Not our
this isn't
official
your final
picks.
picks. This is just who
This is
you're
our
thinking
leans
right now.
We're leaning one way or the other.
Yes.
I'm leaning Eagles. I think most of America is too.
I am leaning Eagles as well.
Which scares me because a lot of people are going to be saying Eagles, and Patrick Mahomes is on the other side.
I'm rooting Eagles. I'll put that out there. I'm rooting for the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm the opposite.
But God, just the Mahomes effect.
Yeah.
Plus, you talk about Philly magic.
Mm-hmm.
That Mahomes, he had some Mahomes magic the other night where even that run at the end of the game where he's apparently got this high ankle sprain. What a faker. Anyway,
Any team that can do that to the Niners, I'll gladly root for them.
Yeah.
I mean, the Eagles, it's kind of like what you said, right? We didn't give them nearly enough credit. From top to bottom, I mean, they figured everything out. They had a perfect offseason.
Mm-hmm.
They had the best offensive line, probably best running back room, if not top 5. Okay, don't worry too much about it. It's probably top 5, top 10.
Continue.
Jalen Hurts is very good.
Yeah.
Wide receiver room, I'd probably put that top 10. It's got to be at least.
It's
A.J.
cool.
Brown
Close.
and Devontae Smith.
Close if not top 10.
Like, their defense, Darius Slay,
Incredible.
Hassan Reddick, all those guys you mentioned. Oh, man. I can't lean one way or the other. We'll save it for next week. Let's just do that. I'll save mine for next
I'll just throw this out there and I'll give my Niners QB name. What position are the Chiefs better than the Eagles at?
Quarterback.
There's one more obvious one too.
Tight end.
Tight end. Other than that, what do they have?
Whoa, now,
advantage of?
Dallas Goedert. Is he the guy for them?
Better than Travis Kelce?
I'm just joking. I'm
Okay,
joking.
all right.
I'm
Other
joking.
than that, what position group are they better in?
Not receiver.
Nope.
Not running back.
Nope.
Offensive line. Chiefs got a good offensive line. Not nearly as good as the Eagles, but
No, but the point is that the Eagles are all better on almost every position.
that is true.
I'll say all that to say this. If they do win the game, if the Chiefs beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl, it will be because Patrick Mahomes is just
Ungodly.
ungodly or godly. Honestly, you can put it either way. I mean, this dude is the second coming of Tom Brady. He doesn't play like Tom Brady, but he will be that kind of guy for a decade or even more.
I was seeing something, right, where they said that only, I think since 2011, every single AFC Championship game has featured either Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And like, doesn't that just like, actually that speaks to a bigger thing, and I just want to throw this out there, and then definitely want to get to that. But the Eagles went through Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy / Josh Johnson to get to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs went through Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, on the other side of that conference was Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
Josh Allen. Like, I mean, the QB disparity is really sad.
Mm-hmm.
Your Bears, I mean, not that they should pick a quarterback, but Justin Fields either needs to get to that next level, or an NFC team needs to draft one of these great quarterbacks, because right now they're all in the AFC.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Jalen Hurts is good, but like, who are the best quarterbacks in the NFC? Probably Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Which is like, ugh.
Geno
Smith.
Geno.
That's true. How did I forget Geno Smith?
Yeah. Watered down Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Jordan Love next year.
Yeah, while I'm here, let me throw out the 49ers QB name that I don't
Yes.
think anyone's talking about. Derek Carr. Derek Carr, I mean, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, I know they're the hot names because they're both from
I
California.
like Derek. I've always
They
been a
both
big
make
fan.
sense because the Shanahan offense doesn't make the QB do a whole lot. Derek Carr's got a lot more years left on him. I mean, we don't know. Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers could just be spiraling down at this point. And in terms of guys who, like I said, got a little bit of years left in them, have shown flashes. Derek Carr just got ran out of Las Vegas for, having one bad year. He's been really good for them for a
No,
while.
I'm a big,
Very
I'll put
underrated
that
for
out there.
them
I'm
for a
big
while.
Derek Carr guy.
He's a guy that, even if he doesn't go to the Niners, I'm interested to see wherever he goes because I think he's going to thrive if he's in the right system.
Can I tell you something about that? Because I like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think of being the Niners and I go, I already have Jimmy G.
Right.
It depends on what I have to give up for Derek Carr, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Mm-hmm.
is that even that much of an upgrade? I mean, obviously, yes,
No,
he's more
maybe
healthy.
not. Maybe not, yeah.
But I just, I think that a team that I'm looking forward to, and I don't think this will happen, but just one that instantly comes to mind, right? Who's a team that needs a quarterback more than anything in the world? Oh my God, the Jets. Like, if Derek Carr could find his way in the Jets somehow.
Yeah.
Match made in
Where
heaven.
Aaron Rodgers is going to be at.
Supposedly, yeah.
I know, that's supposedly. And of course, they hired Nathaniel Hackett, an offensive coordinator, which is like, what are you doing?
Oh, it's
But-
hilarious.
Trying to get Aaron Rodgers.
Only the Jets. Only the Jets.
You know who Nathaniel Hackett is? Literally Adam Gase. Like
Reincarnated,
he's what Adam Gase was to Peyton Manning. Where Peyton Manning gave him one good shout out, and then everybody hired Adam Gase. The same thing's happened with Nathaniel Hackett. They're both. Guess what? They're both terrible. So, okay, let's wrap this up with real quick NBA. We want to talk a little bit about basketball. NBA got some good games on Saturday with the Heat versus the Bucks. Giannis just put up a 50-piece. Really, really good game from him. But the Heat have been hot. I'm going to take the Heat in that game. Saturday, Warriors, Mavs. Let's go Warriors. Warriors have been hot too, despite Steph Curry freaking out over Jordan Poole. Sunday, I think this one's just going to be a fun little rivalry game, especially, kind of coming a little bit 2 weeks after the you'll have Philly on fire right now, right? So Philly's against the Knicks. The Knicks are always going to be really hard to take. But I'm going to take the Knicks in this one. I think the Knicks are a really good team. Jalen Brunson, they're a team full of lefties, right? They got Isaiah Hartenstein, Julius Randle. Why can't they? Jalen Brunson, like I just said, R.J. Barrett. I like the Knicks, and I think that the Knicks will take care of the Sixers. And then college basketball, this is an awesome weekend. I mean, I just had to talk about it because if I didn't, I would be remiss. Kansas at Iowa State. Right? Iowa State's good, but I really like Kansas better. Joey was telling me actually that he really likes Dick, Grady Dick, the small forward for Kansas.
Right.
That he's a really good player. He's a really good freshman coming out of this year's class. And next, Auburn at Tennessee. Auburn, once again, good team, but this Tennessee team is awesome. I think that there's this real big thing in the SEC surrounding bad point guards because they always just have these terrible point guards that don't know how to distribute the ball. That's what you saw from Auburn last year when they had Jabari Smith Jr. They continue that this year. Guess who doesn't, though? Tennessee.
Yeah.
I love Tennessee's point guards. I think Tennessee walks away with that one. Big rivalry game. Purdue at Indiana. This is a make or break game for Indiana. I mean, if Indiana doesn't get this upset win over the number one team in the country, I mean, I just think that this is their only shot. And it really makes me sad because there's this weird part of me that always roots for Indiana deep down. I have no idea why.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I remember when they were number 1 ranked and Victor Oladipo was going off and back in like 2011. But
Cody Zeller.
Yeah, Cody Zeller. Oh my God.
Mhm.
Yeah. I never was a big fan of the Zellers though. Didn't Tyler go to UNC or something? Yep. Yeah, I didn't like the Zellers. But I'm gonna pick Purdue. It's just a safe bet. Just makes me sad though because I do like Indiana. Texas at Kansas State. I'm gonna take Texas. I think they're just more talented. Kansas State's had a really fun season. They've been really good. I think Texas gets it done now. Texas just has way too much talent. It's honestly quite a shame that Chris Beard had to get himself in trouble. Definitely don't want to be like Chris Beard. And then the final game is Gonzaga at St. Mary's. My heart, I'm just going to go with Gonzaga because they're just a better basketball team. But St. Mary's at home, and Gonzaga always loses one to St. Mary's. So I feel like, Jordan, I know you watch a lot of these. Are there any of these that you disagree with, or maybe you think, it's a little more interesting than I made out to be?
I think Indiana actually is going to beat Purdue.
Really?
Yeah,
I'll
straight up disagree with you on that.
I like it.
They've been playing a lot better lately. They just got Race Thompson back, another one of their big men.
Yeah, he's huge.
Trace Jackson Davis, who in his 8th year in college, is playing phenomenal right now. He's playing as good as he ever has. I think they can match up. They're one of the few teams that can match up with Purdue and Zach Edey, the big guy down low. And I actually disagree with you on the St. Mary's too. I think St. Mary's is going to beat Gonzaga.
Heck yeah.
St. Mary's is a team, and this always kills me whenever I make my bracket, and we'll get there too. I cannot wait for that pod.
That's right.
But St. Mary's is one of those teams that I legitimately think, and this is not backed up by any sort of statistics or analytical breakdown, but I think they might win the West Coast Conference, and they might have a shot at making a deep run in March Madness too. The way I know they're
quite high praise.
They're
for
fantastic.
St. Mary's.
They're a fantastic defensive team. And I think a lot of times, the Pac-12 and West Coast teams do pretty well in the tournament historically. And I think a lot of times they're lower seeded than they should be because they just don't get a lot of eyes, period. No one's really watching Gonzaga that much. No one's really watching St. Mary's, UCLA, go down the list. But there's some good freaking teams on the West Coast. And I think St. Mary's is at the top of that list along with UCLA and, of course, Gonzaga. So I think St. Mary's is going to win this game. I think they are a candidate to go deep this year.
Very, very interesting. Joey, any particular thoughts on any of these games? Any that you particularly agree with?
Cut this out. Don't ask me about college basketball.
Gotcha. I just wanted to ask just in case.
Because I got nothing.
He's like, I was just on Ken Pond.
I was here. I missed the smiling face. So.
All right.
That you are.
That'll be it for us. Episode 14 of the Inside Sports Podcast. Yes, that's with the DE capitalized. Please be sure to follow us on Instagram. Please be sure to check out our Spotify and YouTube pages. And if you can, like and subscribe to both of those. You guys have a great rest of your day.